Let's talk about something most of us do without realizing it. It is linking our purpose to our performance. You know that feeling when your value, your identity, your confidence is tied to how well you show up at work? It's such a trap because when your purpose becomes your performance, you start to lose yourself. Are you following me? Because you're performing for approval and it's exhausting when you're performing all the time, when you're masking all the time. Every email, every pitch, every quick check-in turns into a stage. You're playing a role. But who are you when you're off stage? I know for me, this realization really came with COVID because one, I also got to unmask because I wasn't in the office all the time. And then when we started going back into the office, I was like, wait, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. And as I dug into that more, I was like, oh, this is the theater of the workplace. So today we're going to unpack how that shows up in your career, how it can derail your growth, and what can you do instead to stay grounded, creative, and in control? Because if you've ever felt like your value is up for grabs, depending on how well you perform, this video is for you. All right. So first, I'm going to ask you questions and then just talk through it because I'm asking myself these questions as well. So what happens when your purpose becomes overly identified with your performance? What I've seen is that you lose sight of your true self. Because when we link our self worth to performance, we start curating ourselves. Every word, every gesture gets filtered through, will they like me more if I do this? And you might think more control of your message or more confidence comes with it, but really you're just performing, so really becomes more anxiety. And sometimes it's for an audience that doesn't even exist because quite frankly, people are not watching you as hard as you think they're watching you, but then you're overperforming. So then the places that we should be showing up stronger, we've already burnt ourselves out. It's when you're chasing the ideal of what you should be doing, you're not actually showing up as who you are. You're showing up as a version of yourself you've built for other people to seek approval. It's a form of, showing up on social media and only rating yourself based on the likes, the hearts you get versus on, hey, did I share this message as best as I could? And that version of you, the perfect, the polished, the in control, might look confident, but it's hollow and it's reactive and it's a great space for burnout because you're building a life based on what gets applause versus what's truly true. So that applause half the time is imagined because you're performing for people who aren't even watching or who don't even care. So what I've seen is that it's really important to create boundaries between your work self and your life self. Because your purpose doesn't need to be to live inside your job. I had a client once who was just like, yeah, through talking to you, I'm realizing that I can factor for other things. Your whole purpose does not have to be tied into your 9 to 5 job, the thing that gives you income. So give yourself time to explore, to grow, and just exist outside of the deliverables and the KPIs and the OKRs and all the acronyms, right? Break the pattern. Journal what you enjoy outside of performance. What lights you up when no one's watching, when no one is grading you. Set small boundaries at work. One thing per week that's just for you, not your resume. Because ultimately, you're not your productivity, your whole person. And it's really important that we start acting like it because, quite frankly, we've seen that businesses are looking at their own bottom line. Okay. Okay. Question number 2. What's the benefit of practicing healthy detachment at work? In short, you become more objective. If you've ever taken feedback personally, if you've let anger or anxiety derail a project or felt crushed by a missed opportunity, that's the opposite of detachment. Healthy detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become this like ice block. It means you care strategically. You focus on your results, your growth, and your responsibilities without giving away your emotional bandwidth to every office drama, every like or comment, every little judgment. So it's really leaning into caring without crumbling. Detachment is emotional discipline, honestly. It's knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And when your identity isn't on the line, feedback just stings a little bit less. You give it a little bit more oomph in what you're doing because rejection truly at that point feels like redirection. We hear that a lot. And depending on where you are and what's happening in your life, I know for me, when I was applying for jobs and I wasn't hearing back, and people were like, rejection is redirection, I'd be like, but as things panned out, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually really happy that those things that did not come my way didn't come my way. And once you start building that muscle, it becomes easier to see the next opportunity. You stop reacting and you start choosing. So remind yourself why you're there. You're at work to complete tasks, to grow skills, and to build a career that actually aligns with your goals. Your energy is your currency, so it has to be spent wisely. And you do that by protecting your bandwidth, which is pausing before reacting to feedback, asking, is this about me or the work? And keep a wins file, a brag book, a receipts, whatever you want to call it, because it helps you in several ways. Because when doubt creeps in and you go read what you've already absolutely excelled in, it reminds you that you are that girl, you are that guy, right? And that's so important. And when it comes time for you to promote yourself, whether it's for a promotion cycle, a new job, a new opportunity, you can go back and do that. And one way that AI has been really helping me with my brag book is that a lot of my work is writing. So I do sense check that through Claude. And at the end of it, I will always say, based on this, what value did I add to the clients? How much time did I save them? How much money am I potentially doing them? What impact am I now having on their company? And I copy and paste that answer into a Google Doc that is extensively long. And at the end of the quarter, I take that really, really long doc and I put it into Claude, ChatGPT, whatever, and I say, what patterns emerged? How much money did I save? How much time did I save? The metrics that matter to the company. And that makes my promotion cycles so much smoother and clearer for me and for everyone involved. So take that, do it. Let me know how that goes. And ultimately, I think in life, it's really to care deeply, but don't allow yourself to drown because, especially in this segment of your life, your career isn't worth your peace. Okay. Question number 3. What happens when your audience or your boss, your clients, drives your performance? Essentially, you lose sight of your vision. This is the trap of comparison and approval seeking. If every decision is dictated by someone else's expectations, you're essentially outsourcing your life. Your creativity, your strategic thinking, your unique strengths, all of it gets diluted. And when you do that, your creativity suffers, your spark dulls. You start solving for applause instead of impact. And this is really, really important in this day and age of AI because you're going to be employed, you're going to have income based on judgment. Like, how are you reacting and preventing things? How are you thinking through things? So this is your creativity is going to save the day every single time, hands down, right? So what we're leaning towards is building for alignment, not approval. And the way I've done this is to set clear boundaries with stakeholders and with myself, make decisions based on my objectives, my skills, and my career trajectory, not just external validation. And I ask myself all the time, does this move me towards the career I actually want, or am I just performing for approval? So just some rundown questions to ask yourself. Who am I building this for, me or them? Does this align with my long-term vision or just today's pressure? And if no one clapped, would I still be proud of this work? And you have to set boundaries with whoever your audience is. Again, that could be your clients, your boss, your coworkers. Be transparent about your goals. Push back with data, not defensiveness, and share your vision early. So you're shaping expectations, not scrambling to meet them. And most importantly, this is what I'm still struggling with sometimes, is stop trying to be liked and start trying to be aligned. And these 3 tips I just gave you about being transparent and sharing your vision. Recently, I told someone that I wanted to move into a certain direction at work, and someone ended up leaving. So the next best step would have been me to lean into that role. And I was ready to come fighting for that opportunity. And they reached out to me like, hey, we think you're the best fit for this. And obviously, I was happy about that because by being transparent about my goals and about my vision early, they knew to tap me. But now I actually need to lean more into the data and not defensiveness and to stop worrying about being liked when it comes to the compensation conversation. So that that's going to be a conversation, but that's me following exactly what I just shared. And last but not least, I believe in my head, is question number 4. What's the risk of putting your message or performance above your own well being? And ultimately, it's you lose sight of your own needs. And that's where resentment creeps in. And once resentment is in the cake batter, it becomes bitter and no one wants it. But in reality, this shows up as burnout, chronic stress, and a sense that no matter how much you give, it's never enough. It's a trap of thinking, I need to do more to prove my value. And quite frankly, you're not a robot. Allow the AI to be an AI. Your job is to be a human. Do not operate like a robot. Burnout doesn't always come with a dramatic crash or like SOS moment. Sometimes it's just like numbness. It's just, ugh, I'm here again. And the creeping sense that no matter how much you give, it's never enough. You're thinking, oh, I'm gonna just keep pushing through, but you're actually performing over your pain. And that's just never the answer for anything in life. So I just also want to offer that you're not lazy for needing rest. You're not weak for saying no. You're not selfish for protecting your peace. So I implore you to schedule your self care like a meeting, protect your boundaries, stay so focused on you that you can say no strategically and you're able to celebrate your wins, big or small. And I think that's one of the biggest unlocks in life, celebrating your wins. I think a mosquito just bit me. Your career will thrive longer when your energy is aligned with your well-being because you're able to show up more authentically and happier, right? The whole idea of like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. The older I get, the more I'm like, okay, I think it's more nuanced to it, but I essentially agree with the idea that if you are happier in what you're doing, you're going to keep trying to figure new things out to keep yourself engaged in your work. So schedule joy, allow your calendar to have white space or block it so it seems like you're busy, but you have your own white space. And say no like your life depends on it because it really does. Okay. All right. So ask yourself when we talk about reclaiming agency, where in your career are you performing to meet others' expectations? Where are you carrying the weight of perfection? And where could you reclaim agency and make intentional choices rather than reacting to external pressures, right? The key is self-awareness. When you can observe yourself without judgment, you gain so much power. The power to choose projects, the power to set boundaries, the power to pivot when it makes sense, and the power to prioritize your growth over perfection. Because real power comes from awareness. When you can name the moments where you're faking, you're people pleasing, or you're playing small, you can choose something different if you don't want any of that. So ask yourself, where am I trying to be perfect instead of real? Where have I said yes just to feel safe? What would it look like for an act from alignment instead of anxiety? And then from there, once you answer some of those questions, start with one shift. Say no to something that drains you. Pitch something that excites you. And this is a bit of a tangent, but this year I'm on a goal to have 1,000 rejections because the more we build the muscle of rejection, the more we get further because we collect the data of what people actually want from us and what the market is actually buying. And it becomes easier to actually be in alignment with what we want to do. So pitch something that excites you and rest without apologizing. Take that nap. Go to bed at 9. Put the face mask on. Just chill, you know? You don't need permission to own your path. You need presence. On Substack, I wrote an article saying that we have imagined everything around us. We've imagined the concept of time. We've imagined the concept of work, of money. All this is imagined. Someone imagined it and brought it to reality. So you are also allowed to imagine your own reality. Okay? It is totally within our wheelhouse to say, your imagination is not mine. So, long story short, embrace authenticity. Your career should be yours. Your life should be yours, not a performance for someone else. Perfection is such a burden. So let's just drop it. 2026, drop the perfection. Self-awareness is power. Know you're over identifying and act intentionally, right? Wherever you're over identifying with whatever, just know it and act intentionally. You were never meant to be a performance. You were meant to be a person, a human, a living, breathing thing with emotions and feelings and ugh, you know? So I implore you to stop outsourcing your worth to how you show up for others and start showing up for yourself. If you need any support with this, if you need support with detaching with intention, aligning with your vision, choosing growth over performance, just reach out. I'm happy to work with you. If this message aligns, if this hit your gut, that's a good sign. It means it's time to shift. Subscribe for more of this content and let's reclaim our agency together. And your purpose, it's not your performance, it's your power. Like your purpose is such alignment, is so powerful. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.